And where do you live?
622 West Des Moines Street in Brooklyn.
How long have you lived at
And this is
622 West Des Moines Street in Brooklyn?
When we did the opening statements, they started to do his testimony, and then they had some microphone issues, and so yeah, this must be part one of day one. But there's three of them. Well,
3.5 years.
We'll get there.
Do you live there currently with anyone else?
Yep, my wife.
Okay. What's your wife's first name?
Allie.
All right. How long have you been married?
Since 2019 of August.
All right. I probably wasn't going to ask your anniversary.
was
That's okay.
Yeah.
But do you also have children?
Yes, we do.
All right. And how many kids do you guys have?
Welcome.
We've got one son, Brayson, and we have another one on the way.
All right. Back in July
you.
of 2018, were you also residing at 622 West Des Moines in Brooklyn?
Yes.
And who was living with you at that point in time?
Well, at that time was my fiance, but still Allie, my brother Dalton, and his girlfriend Mollie.
Let's take a look at some exhibits here. I'm going to put exhibit 4 on the screen. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. On the left side of this exhibit 4, which has been admitted into evidence, it says 622 West Des Moines Street. You see that?
Yep.
Is that where you reside?
Yes.
You see my
Right.
little
And
boy
is this generally what
on the
town are
couch?
we here? Is on the
asleep?
Brooklyn.
That black blob.
Okay.
Felix.
Mr. Jack, where is it that you are employed?
I'm self-employed. I own my own construction company.
Okay, how long have you had that construction company?
Going on 3 years. I was kind of half and half when I first got started, still working for another construction company and kind of part-time for myself as well, just trying to get going. So, but I've been full-time employed for myself for about 2 years now.
Okay, and do you have other employees?
Yes.
Okay, how many?
Right now we have 6 full-time employees.
So you stay pretty busy
Oh yeah.
with that business. What kind of construction is it?
New construction primarily. We do some remodels, but we try to build houses is primarily what we try to do.
Like somebody's home, residential properties?
Yep. Residential is all we get into. We don't dive into commercial or industrial.
Do you have siblings?
I do. 2 brothers, Dalton and Randy.
Okay. And is Dalton older or younger?
Randy Jack.
Dalton's younger. He's
Ah,
3 years
Randy
younger.
Jack.
And how about Randy?
Randy's 3 years younger than him, so 6 years younger than me.
So you're the oldest
I'm
of
the oldest.
of the
Yep.
boys?
Yep.
Prior to her death, Mr. Jack, did you know Mollie Tibbetts?
Yeah, I knew her from just being my brother's girlfriend, and she'd come to family events, and got to know her a little bit more whenever she started living with us part-time when Dalton moved in with me and my wife. So yeah.
Okay. How long had Dalton lived with you and Allie prior to July of 2018? Do you remember?
Well, we bought the house in October, and he moved in pretty much as soon as we bought the house. We did some small remodel projects before he moved in, but shortly after we moved in, he moved in with us as well.
You moved in October 2017.
Mhm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
All right. And did you get to know Mollie over that time period while she and Dalton dated?
Yeah, I mean, that was probably when she lived with us, that was the busiest time of year for me, so I wasn't at home all the time. But they would eat dinner with us occasionally. Their room was upstairs and our room was downstairs, so we kind of kept to our separate areas. They were constantly in their room and stuff. So, but we ate dinner together, got to know her pretty well, got to know her family a little bit and stuff. I knew her brothers from sports and I coached them and stuff. So
okay. So where were you employed in the summer of 2018?
I was self-employed at that time. I was working on a basement finish job. We were finishing out a basement over a new house over in Newton at that time.
So did you own your own construction business
Yes.
back in 2018?
Yep, I did.
All right. And the week of July 16th, which would include July 18th, where were you physically located?
I would go to the job site in Newton, and my wife, who worked for a seed corn company, was staying up in Ames as a field inspector at a hotel there with the rest of her colleagues. And so I would go up there and stay with her those couple of days during that week.
Okay. We'll talk to you a little bit more in detail about what you were doing that week. But as of July of 2018, did you know any person named Cristhian Bahena Rivera?
No.
Have you ever met anyone that you recall that had that name?
No.
To your knowledge, Mr. Jack, had Dalton Jack or Mollie Tibbetts ever mentioned the name Cristhian Bahena Rivera?
No.
Okay, let's talk more specifically about the week of July 18th, okay?
Yep.
All right. So I know you told us you were working, but I want to direct your attention back to that week. When was it that you left town to go to Newton to work on this construction job that you've already described?
I was working there every day. We were probably midway through the process of that remodel, or that finishing that basement. So I was going there every day for work, even weeks before that and weeks after that.
Okay, so were you traveling to Newton and then coming home in the evening, or did you stay over that week?
That week I stayed those 2 days with my wife in Ames. But primarily I was coming home in the weeks prior. I mean, if I had a softball game, I'd come back home for softball, which was Mondays and Fridays. But that week I was staying with my wife in Ames.
So on what was the plan with regard to your house and who was going to be there while you were gone?
Didn't know until Monday night that Dalton wasn't going to be, he was traveling to Dubuque, which for him to be on the road was pretty common at that time. So all I asked Mollie to do was just let the dogs in and out. They were if we put them in the basement, they could stay down there. You know, they had food and water and stuff like that available to them. So it wasn't like, we had to be there all the time. So just let them out a couple times a day and that would be enough.
Okay. So what was the practice with the dogs? When there was nobody home, where would you put them?
We'd put them in the basement. And the reason we did that is we have an old 4-square farmhouse, and the basement's, just a regular 4-square farmhouse basement, concrete floor, but it's not finished, and then all the utilities and stuff are down there. Toby, our younger dog, had epilepsy. And so if he would have a seizure episode when we were not around, he would, soil himself, and we didn't want that up above in the living space. So to prevent any of that big messes to clean up, we put them in the basement. Obviously they had their food and their beds and stuff down there, but that way if we had to clean something up, it wasn't up in our living space. So.
All right. So what was the plan that week then with regard to you and Dalton and Mollie? What were the arrangements that were made?
Well, there wasn't any drawn out really arrangements. It's just that I asked Mollie to let the dogs out while I was gone and just told her I was staying with Allie and Ames. That was really the only, it wasn't a formal arrangement by any means, but that was just kind of what we decided upon just because I was going to be gone. And with Dalton being out of town, had no problem. She had some stuff there anyway, so it wasn't a big inconvenience for her to come let them out.
Okay. So when was the last time that you saw Mollie Tibbetts alive?
Monday. I don't remember the day, whatever that Monday was before she went missing.
Okay. So that would have been July 16th. Wednesday, July 18th was
right.
Yep. Missing. Is that 16th, right?
16th, yep.
So how was it that you got to Newton?
I drove there.
Okay. And Allie go with you, or did she drive separate?
What's going on?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I just assumed Dalton would take care of it because, he lived there. Whenever I found out from
not me.
Mollie, whenever I asked her to let the dogs out, that
Dave.
Dalton wasn't going to be there, then I just decided to let her take care of them for us.
And that arrangement was okay with you?
Yeah.
All right. Did you have any communication at all, Mr. Jack, on Monday or Tuesday with Mollie Tibbetts that you have not already described to us?
No.
Did you have any communication with your little brother, Dalton Jack, on Monday or Tuesday that you haven't already told us?
No.
By the way, when did he tell you that he was going to be working in Dubuque?
It had to have been Monday, or it had to have been Tuesday, because that was the day I can't remember exactly. It had probably been Tuesday, because that was the day I was going to go up to see Allie to be sure. I wanted to be sure the dogs were going to be taken care of.
And was it your understanding that Dalton then was going to be out of town for the remainder of the week?
Right. He said he was going to be out of town it might have been a couple of weeks. So.
Okay. So I want to now direct your attention to Thursday, July 19th of 2018. Did you receive any contact from Dalton Jack?
He called me right as I was wrapping up with work for the day and just asked me when I got home, to check on Mollie and see what was going on. Said he hadn't heard from her and that she
I don't know what happened.
Or that she hadn't called in sick, but that she hadn't been at work, and that work called him to see where she was at.
All right. So do you remember when you got that phone call from Dalton Jack?
Yeah, I was on the job site at noon. It was about 4:30 in the afternoon. So that's about the time we always wrap up every day.
And was that the first that you had heard that Mollie Tibbetts may be missing?
Yes. Yep.
And that was from Dalton?
From Dalton. Yep.
At the time, what were your plans on that Thursday at 4:30? Were you going to come home that evening? What were your plans?
I had to go help Allie with her car because she forgot her car keys. But my plan was still to come home afterwards. Yes.
So after receiving this communication from Dalton Jack that Mollie had not been heard from, Did you get any other phone call from him between helping Allie get her phone keys and driving home to Brooklyn?
No.
Any text messages or phone calls, anything like that? I'm not suggesting there are, but any communications you
No.
can remember?
Not that I can remember.
Start it again. Stupid feed. I know it's not me because I jumped ahead, and it had sound.
No, I don't think he
Yeah.
asked me, but I did try calling her just to double check. But
So did you have her
Going in and
phone
out.
number and her
Yeah.
contact information?
Yep.
And what was the result of your attempt to contact Mollie Tibbetts after talking to Dalton at 4:30?
no answer. So
And how was it? You just called her number?
yeah, I called her cell phone.
Did you have her cell number in your phone?
Yeah, I had her contact. Yeah.
All right. So after receiving this communication from Dalton Jack, what did you and Allie then do?
So I got home, and as I'm pulling into town, two of her friends were driving around and kind of half flagged me down and just asked me if I'd seen her. And I said I hadn't seen her, but I'm going to the house right now to check on her. Just at that point, I was still assuming that she'd probably just be there or whatever. I didn't know. Went in the house. She wasn't there.
Hang on just a second. I'll get to that. Okay.
Mhm.
So sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're
But, so the two friends, where was it they flagged you down?
That would be North Orchard Street, which is just around the corner from my house.
Okay.
So
So they were on the sidewalk or a street?
no, they were driving. They were in a car.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. So and then you stopped and talked to them?
Yep.
And after that, you went where?
Went back to the house went to the house.
So whenever you arrived back at 622 West Des Moines, do you remember what time you got there?
Not the exact time. No, probably if I left Newton and help out with her car, like 6 o'clock.
But it was still light outside.
Still light outside in the middle of summer. So
Whenever you arrived back at 622 West Des Moines, was anyone else present?
no.
And did you go into the house?
Yes.
Mr. Jack, whenever you went into the house, did you notice anything unusual about any entryway? Was there any sign of that was unusual?
No.
Any broken locks, broken windows, anything like that?
Nope.
Okay. And how was it that you got into your house that day, if you can recall?
Well, I just walked in the door. We don't lock the doors in our small town.
So the door wasn't even locked?
No.
Okay. So whenever you walk in, anything out of the ordinary in the house that you saw?
No, everything pretty much just as we left it.
Where were the dogs?
The dogs were in the basement.
And was that one of the first things that you did whenever you got into the house, was to get the dogs?
Yep. Pretty much anytime anybody comes home, you go down there and get them, let them upstairs.
Did you happen to go up to the room that Mollie shared with Dalton whenever she was with him?
Yeah, I went up there to check and see if she was in there, and she wasn't in there.
And again, anything out of the ordinary in the house?
No.
After checking the house, did you check with any of your neighbors to see if they had seen or heard anything?
Yes, I went over to the neighbors to the west and just checked and see if they had heard or seen anything.
Who did you talk to? Do you recall?
Jeff and Michelle Hall.
Okay. And had they seen or heard anything?
No.
Did you talk to other neighbors or other people in the area?
Yeah, I went a couple blocks away to another neighbor and asked him, just because I knew he was the IT guy for the REC, which is the business directly to the east of my house. And
Hang on just 1 second. Whenever you say IT guy, what do you mean?
well, he handled their computers.
Okay.
stuff.
And the REC is what?
It's just the electric cooperative.
The Rural Electric Cooperative. That's
Yep.
what REC stands for. Is
Yep.
that right?
Yep.
Okay. So who was it? What was his name?
Nate Hopwood.
And did you learn any information from Nate Hopwood?
Well, we asked about the cameras, and he said to us that they were not working because of a storm or something.
What cameras?
There's a couple cameras on the outside. One kind of like faces the road and the parking lot on one side, and that's the one we were kind of hoping to get access to. That's the only one I could see from my house. But
That those were not operative?
yeah, according to him.
Did Nate Hopgood indicate he had seen Mollie running the evening before?
I can't remember.
Okay. Is there anybody else that you talked to?
Just at that point, Molly's friends were over there, and we're kind of brainstorming, trying to figure out where she might be. And then at some point, after kind of doing our best to track her down, we decided just to call law enforcement.
So how many of Mollie's friends had come over to your house to assist you in trying to find her?
The two girls were there pretty much right away, but then seemed like there was other kids just kept showing up. It's more, I mean, there was two other boys I know driving around in a truck and talking to people, but I don't remember how many exactly came over, but there was several.
Did you start to become worried?
I was worried just that I didn't have any inkling of what happened, but I was kind of worried that she wasn't answering her phone and didn't have contact. There was a big storm the day before, like a tornado that went through Marshalltown. So we didn't know if maybe it's something that had something to do with it. That was honestly my first thought, was that maybe she got caught in the storm or something. And that's, we didn't know what was the deal, but that was kind of my first inclination of what maybe would happen.
Okay. While you were home and after you had checked with the neighbors to see if they'd seen anything, did Allie come over?
Yeah, she came home a couple hours later. She came back from Ames.
Okay. Did you ever call Mollie's phone?
Oh, we called it a whole bunch of times, just always trying to get through to her.
I think you mentioned that, but you called her a number of times. Is that correct?
Yes.
And her friends did the same thing?
Yes. We tried Facebook, Snapchat, everything.
Okay. And no response?
No response.
All right. Before we finish this up, Mr. Jack, were you familiar, because Mollie had stayed with you, with what her running habits were?
Not exactly like where she went, but I know she ran all the time. And when I would see her, generally it'd be like coming back home from work, I'd see her running down the street parallel with where we live. And then I'd see her scatterings around town. I mean, she ran pretty much everywhere. So
was Mollie a runner in high school?
Yeah, she was in track and cross country, I think.
And generally speaking, what would Mollie wear whenever you would see her go out for runs?
Shorts, jogging shoes, either like a tank top or a sports bra. And she always had her, like the iPod thing that holds her phone for music and stuff.
And prior to going to your job in Newton this week that included July 18th of 2018, did you notice anything unusual in the relationship between Dalton Jack and Mollie Tibbetts?
No.
Did they seem to be getting along?
Yes. I don't think she would be staying in our house if they weren't getting along.
Okay. All right. Mr. Jack, one thing I do want to point out here on our exhibits. Hang on just a second. I'd shown you exhibit 4. Can we get that up, please?
I can see it on here.
I know they can't see it on the screen. So we've been talking a bit about 622 West Des Moines Street. I may have gotten a bit ahead of myself, but this area here that we see on the left side of the photo is your house that you indicated, correct?
Yep.
And again, I know we've seen this before too, but this is exhibit number 7, which is on the screen, which has been admitted. This was the house that you returned to July 18th of 2018, correct?
Yes.
All right. All right. At this time, that's all the questions I have for Mr. Jack. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Defense may cross-examine.
Sir, I've got a few questions for you. It sounds like when you heard about Mollie Tibbetts being missing, that it concerned you. Is that right?
Yes.
You remember that phone call?
From Dalton, yes.
You remember where you were?
Yes, I was in Newton.
Did you get a pit in your stomach right away when you heard that?
I mean, I was just a little bit nervous for him, but wasn't thinking it was anything to be terribly concerned about until I got home.
You'd agree with me that Mollie isn't the type of person that would just, go off the radar for a day or two.
Oh, absolutely not. She was always attached to her phone.
She took pride in showing up to work every day. Is that right?
Yes.
She was a very conscientious employee at the daycare that she worked at. Is that right?
Yes.
She enjoyed her job and enjoyed being a presence in her children's life, or not her children, but the children's life. Is that right?
Yep.
And so it was unusual that she would just not show up to work. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, it sounds like just about as soon as you found out about this, you tried to get yourself back to Brooklyn. Is that correct?
Yes.
The first thing that was done is you and other friends tried to, I wasn't sure if it was me or you that
Jeep
the first
breathing.
thing that was done is a group of friends kind of gathered together to see if they could locate Mollie. Is that right?
When I got back, yeah. Yep.
You talked about Facebook and Snapchat and different location ways to track her. Is that right?
Yeah.
I don't do Snapchat, but if you could enlighten me a little bit, there's something that's called location services. Is that right?
As far as like the map thing, yeah. Yep.
And essentially, if you are a friend or an acquaintance on Snapchat, you can see that person's location. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did you use Snapchat at that point in time?
I have Snapchat, but I don't think I had her as a friend, but her friends that were with us did.
And so one of the first things that was done is to kind of look and see if they could see Mollie's location. Is that correct?
Yep. Yep.
Because it would be pretty usual that their friends would be able to see exactly where she was. Is that right?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, it just depends on whether you have the ghost mode on or whatever, but yeah.
Now, as soon as you were not able to find Mollie, the police were called. Is that correct?
Correct.
You were asked to give a couple of different interviews. Is that right?
Yes.
I think on July 20th, so the day after she went missing, you were asked to interview. Is that correct?
Correct.
Where was that interview at?
One was down at the municipal building in Brooklyn, and the other was at the fire department in Brooklyn.
And those are pretty soon after Mollie had went missing. Is that correct?
Yeah, one was like the day or day after, and then the next one was later on in the week after we've been searching for a while.
Be fair to say that you were cooperative with any investigation techniques that law enforcement wanted to utilize with you. Is that right?
Yes.
So if they wanted you to come in for another interview, you were happy to do that. Is that right?
Yes.
They also asked you to do a polygraph. Is that right? Sir, were you ever asked to give a swab
Welcome back.
of your DNA?
No, I don't think, not that I can think of.
Another thing that law enforcement did is they asked for different devices that you had. Is that right?
Yes.
And you were cooperative with providing those devices to law enforcement. Is that right?
Yes.
In fact, I think you said, here's my cell phone, take it and you can run anything on it that you need. Is that right?
Yes.
So anything, any messages or anything that were on that phone were voluntarily provided to law enforcement. Is that correct?
Yes.
You and Dalton are both avid hunters. Is that right?
Yes.
What do you hunt?
Deer, pheasants, turkeys, primarily.
Does Dalton also hunt deer,
Yes.
pheasants,
Yes.
turkeys?
Yep.
You two hunt together?
Yes.
I would assume that it's not unusual for your home to have guns that you use to hunt with. Is that correct?
Correct.
What kind of guns would those be?
Rifles and shotguns.
You also had a 357 at your home. Is that right?
Yep.
And another thing, you don't use the knives in, I guess, in hunting, but if you if you shoot a deer, you would use the knife to gut the deer. Is that right?
Yep. Field dress it. Yep.
And would it be fair to say that you've got several different knives in your residence?
Yes.
Same with Dalton?
Dalton had a couple, yeah.
You two would generally hunt together fairly regularly. Is that right?
During season, I mean, we bow hunted together. That was kind of our favorite thing to do. And then we'd shotgun hunt with our family. We have a group that goes every first season shotgun.
Mollie and Dalton did have their problems. Isn't that right?
Not that I'm aware of.
There was issues with him cheating on her with another woman.
Not that I'm aware of.
So you're not aware of any problems involving that.
No, but I'm sure he wouldn't be the first 18-year-old.
Groceries, I think. Flowers, mum.
Dalton
Nothing
was
that
also
exciting.
known for having some anger problems.
Can you elaborate on that?
He was known to get into fights at school.
Name one
No.
boy that hasn't.
You don't know
That's
anything about
16.
Dalton having any anger problems.
No.
No further questions.
Mr. Brown, anything else to this witness?
Hang on just one second.
Bye, boss.
That's all the questions we have. Thank you.
Mr. Jack, thank you for being here. You're excused.
Mr. Jack Mehoff.